Hey, welcome back to JG3 Reviews. My name is James, and here I explore the world of fountain pens, ink, and paper. And one of my favorite kind of pens is a pocket pen or a small pen. Sometimes it's because I'm looking for a really durable pocket pen that can go in the pocket with my keys and my pocket knife, and I don't have to worry about it like a brass pocket pen. Other times, it is because I just want something that's more convenient. Maybe I have a pocket in a button-up shirt that's not that deep, a little bit shallow, and it needs a short pen. So maybe I get something like on the larger size, a Pilot Prera, or maybe something on the smaller size like this dinky little thing. And this falls into a third category of pocket pens that I like. This is pocket pens I like just because they're kind of novel, okay? This is a bit of a novelty when a pen gets to be this small. And I know it looks like I'm holding it like back behind my head because it's so small, but no, this is closer to the camera than I am, and it's still this small. I think I know people with hangnails bigger than this pen. This is the Majohn Q2. An interesting little eyedropper pen made of a really nice material, and it is really tiny, so tiny that I actually thought about using it as a Christmas ornament. Okay, so it's a cool looking little pen. It's a novelty pen, but the question still remains, is the pen actually usable? Does it work? Is the nib any good? Is this a real fountain pen? And that's what we're going to look at today, so let's spin the camera and get started. All right, let's look first at the shape of this pen, which is basically a cigar-shaped pen. Very small, though. In fact, just to put it in some size perspective here early on, this is a Parker Jotter, not a large pen, a very thin pen, in fact. And look at the difference between these two. So we're definitely looking at a small pen. Now, this is not the first green Majohn Q series eyedropper I reviewed. The first was what I like to call the pickle. This was the Q1, whose cap is in that same green marbled material, but with some additional blue flecks every now and then. Very similar, though. And look how gigantic the pickle looks next to this. So I guess we should call this one the Gherkin, shouldn't we? Just keep that pickle theme going right along. It is really a tiny pen. Now, like this pen, it is an eyedropper. It really is just a little pen with gold-colored trim, a pretty stiff clip, but it works well. If you're one who will ever use that, it's certainly a good roll stop for this pen. And then that cap comes off in about 1 1/4, yeah. 1 1/4 turns, so not bad at all. When you get that cap off, of course, you end up with an even smaller pen, really, really tiny, and a number 5 nib, which, if you didn't know how small the pen was, actually has a really nice proportion to the small size of this pen. By itself, without anything else for reference, you might think this was some large nib, normal sized pen, but it most certainly is not. Just look at that. You see, just compared to my thumb, very small. That said, all the machining on the acrylic, really nice. The pen seems to be well made, and the threading is good. You would open it up, and again, it is an eyedropper, and it comes with an eyedropper, and you just put the ink down in the pen. It does come with a silicone O-ring, actually 2 right here, and then I'll also put a little bit of silicone grease on those threads just for a little bit of extra insurance and due diligence. Now, in terms of holding the pen, can you write with it like this? I'll check that when we get to the writing test, but as it is, I would not write with the pen uncapped. You could, I guess, just kind of force it there and be able to write with an unusual grip, and it may work. I'll try that here in a minute, but generally, you're going to want to post that pen, and then, as a little tiny pocket pen, it's not really that bad. Now, of course, that brings us to the nib, which is a Moonman branded, super quality, as it says, number 5 nib, gold tone with pretty traditional scrolling on the trim of the nib. This one is a fine, and it is a screw-in nib unit, typical plastic feed, and it's not glued in. I did check it. You can get this one out. This is a first impressions review, so I have not written with the nib. We'll get to that in just a second. Generally, the number 5s that I've gotten from Moonman Majohn have been fine, but we'll just have to see when we put that ink onto the paper. All right, let's do a little bit of a comparison of the size of these pens. And first, I think comes to mind maybe a Kaweco Lilliput in that green color. Really great pen. I really like this pen. And then there is the Gravitas Quark, a really tiny pen, but with a number 6 nib. And then, not a fountain pen, but a pen that comes to mind in this size range, the Fisher Space Pen Bullet. So if you're familiar with any one of these other pens, you know this thing is tiny, tiny, tiny for a fountain pen. But you can also see it's in some pretty good company. All right, now here are the pens in their posted length, and once again, really shows how small this is, because look at that. Next to a Lilliput and next to a Quark and even next to the Bullet pen, this thing is really tiny. But it can be written with, as I'll prove here in just a moment, and maybe even can be somewhat practical, as we will see. And then their unposted length, all of them really dinky, and you're going to want most of them posted. All right, moment of truth. How well does the little Gherkin write? Says again, a fine nib. I think you can tell that by the way that it's writing, and it is number 5, steel. Wetness, not too bad. See if there's any flex. I'm going to assume no. This is no pressure. Whoops, no pressure, very light pressure, moderate, and a lot. There's a little bit there. So, move that out of the way for a second. If we try to do our little swirlies with a little bit, yeah, you can get a little. It's a stiff nib, but you can get a little. It's their standard number 5. So if you're familiar with them, it's going to write like other number 5 Majohn pens that you've got. And one thing I do notice, because of the shape of the pen, there's a little, even when posted securely, and it is posted securely, there's a little bit of movement there when you write. So kind of be aware of that, because the pressure you're putting here on the cap is above where the pen is inside where it's posted, and you're not wanting to ruin the threads or mar the pen, pushing it down too far. There's just a little bit of give there. I would prefer that not to be there. That's why some little pens like this, like the Lilliput or the Gravitas Quark, have caps that screw on. It's why some others have plastic sleeves inside. In this case, probably a plastic sleeve inside would be the best move to make if they wanted to improve it. Ink today, whoops, that was me, I lifted, is Monteverde. And I'm just going to put MV, but it's the Monteverde Ruby Red ink. This is a nice ink, part of their Gemstone series. I think it's technically just ruby. I always say ruby red, but it's a nice ink. That was the pen cap, not the nib that made that little weird pop, and not much, just something there. Okay, anyway, maybe that would be, so far, that would be the only thing. If you're going to have a pen this small, where the cap has to be part of the writing experience, because otherwise you're going to have to like stuff this up into your palm and write like that, and I don't know. Let's try that and see if that's worth doing. You know, my assumption would be no, and it's all going to depend on the size and shape of your hands and all of that kind of stuff. Well, you know, it's awkward, but you can do it. I mean, that's not that different from the way I would normally write that word. That's one of my test words for a pen. You could do that, and that might be, it would be better than the annoying kick, kick, kick every time that cap wants to move around because you've changed the angle on your hand there. So far, that would be my only complaint. But you know, the pen itself, just in terms of writing, once you kind of get your mind off the cap click, not bad. I think it writes okay, and I think the nib is fine. Again, standard issue. It's not anything out of this world or special in that regard. But the pen is fun, and actually, let me do a little bit more like that. Let me do our speed test like this. That wasn't as bad as I would have thought it was. All right, let's see if the nib can keep up, right? Real time. All right, here is a turn that was me. Somewhere over here I turned, and then I don't really see anything else. So I think it's keeping up okay, in spite of a little user error. So what is my first, this is a quick first impression too, but what's my first impression of the pen? Really fun. It's fun size, okay? It's like a little fun size M&M or Snickers. It's a fun sized pen. And I do like it. I think it's practical with a clip. You can put that in a pen loop or whatever, carry it with a notebook. And it's small, it's not going to get in the way. It's an eyedropper, so it has decent capacity. I'll put that in specifications when I know that number. And actually, I was one who was hesitant about using eyedroppers very much, but I've had pretty good experience. I've only had 1 or 2 pens that didn't work out very well. And the Q3 actually turned out to be a good eyedropper pen. And my suspicion is that this one will be too. If I have problems with it burping or anything like that, then, I'll let you know. But I really don't expect that to be too big a problem. It's not a pen I would do long writing sessions with. It'd be a pen that might get to tag along on a day when I expect to have to do a little bit of note taking, but not a lot of writing. And then it would be handy. And like I said, it's fun. If you wanted a fountain pen to use on your Christmas tree as an ornament, for example, this would be great, wouldn't it? So I say that as a joke, but honestly, you could string this up on the tree and it would look pretty cool. So it's a fun pen. It is a novelty pen, and so I would look at it through those eyes. I wouldn't expect it to be more than it is. It is made of nice material. This green in particular, I really like, and I think that's a cool looking acrylic, really nice looking and fun. And, if this is something that you think might interest you, check it out. It's not bad. And if you have small enough hands, maybe the issue with the cap, moving around a little while you're writing is not even a thing for you. But what do you think? Is there a place in your life for a pen this small, or is it go big or go home for you? Let us know in the comments below. And as always, I thank you so much for liking, subscribing, and commenting here on the channel. That all does help the channel to get out there. And before I close out, let me remind you, in the next review, I'm going to talk about that celebration giveaway of, is it going to be a pen or is it going to be pens? Well, we'll see. In the next review, I'm going to give you all the information on how you can win a pen as I celebrate 15,000 subscribers. And as always, God bless you, and I hope you have a wonderful week.